by our guy, Chris Biderman, Sacramento Bee and Candlestick Chronicles. Chris, how you doing? We just got word, Chris, get your reaction. We just got word. Two things. You can choose your path. Warriors have been fielding trade offers for Andrew Wiggins on a potential player-for-player swap. There appears to be enough interest in Wiggins where Golden State won't have to attach draft assets. Or the second way we can go with this is that it is official, I believe, from Adam Schefter 20 minutes ago. Ben Johnson staying in Detroit. The flow is yours. Thank you for joining us.
Oh man, here I was thinking we were going to talk Kings Grizz. I guess we can start. I guess we can start with Ben Johnson. Yeah, I think it was pretty surprising, and you're seeing. I don't know if it's conflicting reports, but Adam Schefter tweeted out that he might not be the head coaching candidate that many have assumed. I'm not entirely sure what that means, but he's also said that the asking price might be a little high, which is interesting. We don't know, coaches' salaries are not made public, but my guess is that some of the best coaches in the league are making $15 to $20 million a year now. And I'm wondering, did Ben Johnson come in hot and say, I want 17, despite not having any head coaching experience? So, we'll see how that plays out. I think it's obviously huge news for the Lions, because I think that was one of the biggest questions facing them this offseason was, as good as their offense was, would it look the same if Ben Johnson took a head coaching job elsewhere? And now it looks like he's coming back. So they get to run it back. They have a ton of talented players. They have a really good offensive line, and obviously they have a good scheme. So they're going to be set offensively at least. And if they can improve the defense, I would expect them to be a formidable team in the NFC as long as that group's still together.
Chris, a lot was made on Sunday about Dan Campbell's or Dan Gamble, if you will, his everything, that all of his decisions the other day, including, Ben Johnson running the ball in that 3rd and goal. But all that to say, what have you thought about Kyle Shanahan and his play calling and specifically his game management so far through 2 games?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think zooming out from taking a macro look at Kyle Shanahan, he's not known for being super aggressive, right? He's the guy who would much rather play for a field goal at the end of a half than risk going for a touchdown and the other team getting the ball back with a chance to score. But I think you see, as maddening as that can be sometimes for 49ers fans, I think you see the other side of it and why that might work. And the case being Dan Campbell deciding to be ultra aggressive in those 4th down scenarios. And, I know there's a lot of discussion about, whether or not Dan Campbell made the right decisions or not. I mean, really, those are toss-up decisions. Those are toss-up calls. And, I know the analytics people view it in a way that, he absolutely made the right call. There's no second guessing. It was absolutely the right call. I mean, they lost, and a big factor in the Lions losing. I'm not saying the only factor in the Lions losing were those decisions to go for it on 4th down and be aggressive there, but it was absolutely a factor. And you heard the 49ers say, when Josh Reynolds dropped the first 4th down conversion, that was a huge turning point in the game, and it absolutely was. And those are the things you risk when you risk going for it. In comparing that to Kyle Shanahan and his less aggressive approach, there are multiple ways to skin a cat. There isn't one way to do it, and that's just Kyle Shanahan's style. He's going to be deliberate. He's going to limit the possession game. He's going to know that his offense is going to be more than likely more efficient than the other team's offenses. So if you limit their possessions and you try to maximize yours, then that's part of his formula for winning games. So it's worked so far. It hasn't always worked in the past, and you can think back to the last Super Bowl the 49ers had here in Miami at the end of the first half. Kyle Shanahan's conservative play calling might have bit him there, even though it seemed like had George Kittle, you remember that offensive pass interference that they called on him, had that not been called, the 49ers would have had, I think, 1 timeout and 15 seconds within I think the 15-yard line or something like that. But yeah, like it's one of those things. People love to talk about it. I think there are just multiple ways to approach it, not just hard lining it one way or another.
Talking to Chris Biderman, Candlestick Chronicles, and the Sacramento Bee on the road trip with the Kings. One more Niners question before we get to Kings. Chris, it's early, and we're going to talk to you next week as well, but it's being asked to Niner fans how confident they are in this game against the Chiefs, 10 being the highest, scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest. And it's early now, but Omenihu goes out for the Chiefs, and the Niners are very, very healthy. What number would you say your confidence level is at for the Niners going into this game? Initially, we'll ask you again next week, but initially.
I'm so bad at answering these questions because my answers generally are just not that compelling. Like I'm somewhere between a 4 and a 6. Like,
okay.
You know, like
yeah.
I'm not. I feel that the Niners are obviously a really good team. They're a really balanced team. They're more balanced than the Chiefs, in my opinion. But I think the Chiefs defense has been better, and Patrick Mahomes obviously gives the Chiefs the edge at quarterback. So if you believe that the Chiefs have the better quarterback and the better defense, which I do right now based on the way the 49ers defense has played the last few weeks in the playoffs, then I think it's hard to feel super confident in what the 49ers can bring. Now, that being said, I think the 49ers defense should play better than it has and is a better defense than it's been, particularly against the run. And I think they have an extra week now to figure some of that stuff out, to clean it up. And if they can slow the run against the Chiefs, then that makes them a little bit more one-dimensional. And obviously, when that dimension is Patrick Mahomes, that's still an immensely tough challenge, probably the biggest challenge a team can have in the Super Bowl. And so that's no small thing, obviously. But I think the 49ers offense is better than the last time they faced the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. I think Brock Purdy is an upgrade over Jimmy Garoppolo. Christian McCaffrey is obviously an upgrade over Raheem Mostert. And I think Brandon Ayuk is a better receiver than Emmanuel Sanders. And you have Deebo Samuel, who's no longer a rookie. He's an established all-pro type player in the league. And you have Trent Williams, who's an upgrade over Joe Staley too. So, you know, I think the 49ers are a very different team this time around, but in terms of my confidence level, man, it's tough to, you know, I can look at the regular season and say, yeah, the Chiefs didn't have a great regular season, particularly on the offensive end, and they don't have the playmakers that they had when they had Tyreek Hill and all those other guys in 2019. But at the same time, you can look at the other side of the ball and say, man, this is far and away the best defense the Chiefs have had since Patrick Mahomes has been there. So, you know, it's Steve Spagnuolo is a really good defensive coordinator. I don't think that should be overlooked at all. But if you're asking me my confidence level on the 49ers winning, like to me, it feels like a toss-up game right now. So I know that's not compelling radio to, you know, I should say like, oh man, the Niners are going to come out and smash them, or, oh, the Chiefs are going to win by 40. Like I feel like it's going to be a great game, a great matchup. And I'm kind of riding the fence right now. And I apologize for that, but that's just me being honest.
No need at all. Yeah. I think that's fair. And, you know, we have time for hype. We still have like a week and a half of this thing.
That's
so
right.
we can get you to that 10 at some point. Moving on to the Kings now. What did you think of yesterday's performance, just in terms of, like, you know, that was obviously a Memphis team that was down incredibly bad in terms of injuries, tons of G Leaguers out there and guys who are just getting new opportunities. Was it an effort thing for you yesterday from the Kings side, or was it just simply they were really bad from the perimeter? And if you would say that, you know, how concerning is it that they put up 103 points just because they can't hit from the perimeter?
You know, like I think you guys know, maybe in the conversations we've had offline about the Kings, that I can be pretty hard on them. But in talking to, I talked to an assistant coach at Shoot Around yesterday about the game and just about the state of the Grizzlies. And, you know, the Grizzlies had won 3 of 4 coming in,
right?
And including wins here in Miami. And they beat another good team. I think maybe it was Toronto, but they beat Miami on the road, despite basically the roster looking very similar to how it was last night. And it's just because they play really hard and they play well defensively. And I thought the Grizzlies played really hard and played really well defensively. And what the assistant coach told me at shoot around was like, this is not going to be an easy game. This is going to be a really difficult game because these guys are playing their ass off. And all those dudes, and Mike Brown said it after the game, like a lot of those guys are playing for their NBA careers. Like there's a level of desperation that they have in comparison to the Kings, who are, you know, in the middle of this long road trip and probably not playing with the same level of desperation that some of those Grizzlies guys who are fighting for their futures in the league are. So from that standpoint, like, you know, watching it up close, it wasn't like the Kings were just, you know, getting anything they wanted defensively. I thought the Grizzlies did play really well defensively. Offensively, the Grizzlies were super challenged, right? They were just not, they had no options really. When you have Jaren Jackson handling the ball and being their primary playmaker, that tells you everything you need to know about the state of the Grizzlies roster and all their health issues. But I'm not, you know, like if you were to tell me a month ago that the Kings or the Grizzlies would be missing 4 of their 5 starters and the Kings would only score 104 points, it would be like super concerning. But it's not all that concerning to me, just given how that, like, the Grizzlies have proven that they can play deep, that they can defend, and they can play really hard. And Memphis is it's just a tough place to play in general. So I'm not all that concerned, to be honest. Like the Kings got the win, which is the most important thing. But it wasn't one of those games where they were just going to go in there and win by 30. You know, I think they, as good as Ja Morant is, the Kings will tell you. I think that the Grizzlies are a much easier team to score against when he's on the court. Just because of what he is defensively. And when the Grizzlies have all their backup guys in like they did last night, they're going to play really hard defensively. And I think that's what we saw.
Yeah, they beat the Grizzlies beat the Magic. That is beat the Magic at home on Friday. So, and basically everybody played for the Magic. So a good win for the Grizzlies. Only difference was that Luke Kennard played against the Magic. Chris Biderman, thank you so much. So Chris, you're in Miami right now?
I'm in Miami right now.
Memphis. Yeah. Okay, you're in Miami.
Is this your town? Do you know this place?
I was in Miami in 2019 and it was outstanding. I will send you in, what is it, Little Havana. There was a Cuban spot that I mean, there's plenty out there, but you find a good Cuban spot out there, Chris, and you'll be all right.
All right, I'll tell him you sent me.
There you go. There you go. Chris Biderman, Sacramento Bee and Candlestick Chronicles. We'll talk to you next week. Thank you, Chris.
Appreciate you guys.
All right, got to get to a break. When we get back, continuing the conversation about the Kings. Andrew Wiggins, you interested? Stiles and Watkins, Sactown Sports.